Aye.
Hello! We're back again. You're probably getting sick of us by now. Round 4 is in the books. We got a win. We've got a win. Thank goodness.
And we'll take it.
We will take it. A win's a win's a win.
Yeah. 2 points in the bank.
Yes.
It's better than 0.
Means we're better than 8 other teams this round.
We're better than the Eels.
Still better than the Eels. Thank goodness. I guess we should just get straight into it.
Yeah, let's do that.
We've got enough to talk about this week. Bunnies Panthers. What a weird game.
Not sure we saw this coming.
I think, and I guess going off that, I think the scoreline makes it seem closer than it was. Because that first half was absolutely dominant from South. And I think a lot of that had to do with Dane Laurie having not a great game.
Yeah, he had a poor game.
Yeah, a very poor game. And I think that's a big indicator of what's different about this Penrith team, is that you look at the past few years, when one of the main spine players has had a bad game, you would have people there that can take up the slack and be good. They don't have that this year, which is a lot more concerning for how good their depth actually is. Because it's always lauded as like they have the best system in the NRL. It's really being put to the test right now, which is maybe good for them in the long term, I suppose. But right now, it's
painful at the moment.
Yeah, right now it's pretty ugly.
I mean, the biggest talking point was that no try, I think, to Moses Leota.
That was horrendous. No. I don't know how you don't give that a try.
That's a try in any other game. I don't know what happened there. In a round where the bunker had 1 or 2 good games and the rest were pretty awful.
That's the main whipping boy of the big calls this week.
Oh, it was so bad.
It's just terrible.
Really bad. And Weiler wouldn't have let them win necessarily. It's a sliding door at the moment, right? Because they get that they're on 26. That's 4 points behind. You know, anything can happen.
And there was enough time left that they could have made something of it.
That's it. So
it's frustrating for Penrith fans, absolutely.
Yeah,
but I guess,
I'm definitely not a Penrith fan, but that was a dud call.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah. I guess if we're going to keep talking about Penrith, we can start there. How panicked are we for Penrith right now? On a 1 to 10 scale, how are we feeling?
4.
That's about where I'm sitting, I think.
Because Cleary's injured. He's probably coming back this week.
He was only out because of concussion protocol.
And they've still got Edwards to come back as well. So they're still missing quite a bit of
And they're probably going to win this week.
Well, we don't know that.
We'll see.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, it's just, we talked about Dane Laurie before. He didn't have a great game.
To be fair, losing the way they did, not many of them could hold their head up very high. I think
a couple of them could, and I've outlined a couple. Lindsay Smith, I thought, was excellent.
Yes, he's been very good.
Yeah, I think, what was his stat line? He played 59 minutes, he had 120 metres, 2 offloads, 46 tackles, and no misses. Excellent game from him. I thought Tom Jenkins, after being pretty well tested at fullback last week, he's back in his preferred position this week and had a very, very good game, I thought.
Maybe he should have stayed at fullback.
Maybe. How do you feel about that? And, I mean, Brian Toto was Brian Toto. He did his usual things of running 230 metres and then getting hurt, so...
Yeah, I think it was a twinge. I don't think it was a majorly big one.
Yeah, this week.
Yeah, well...
Hold on. I can probably bring up, what does the NRL physio have to say? Because he's always pretty good when it comes to, like, the prognosis of these sorts of things.
I saw it wouldn't get worse.
Brian Toto is expected to miss up to 4 weeks.
Oh, wow, worse than I thought. Okay.
Yeah,
see, that's another bad thing for Penrith, right? I mean...
They've copped a few injuries this year.
They have, and it's not great for them. It's good for other teams, I guess, but... You always want to be able to compare yourself to the best, and at the moment the Penrith Panthers are not the best because of the fact that they're lacking cattle.
Yes, this is true.
You never want to see a person injured.
Oh, yeah.
I guess on the winning side, South side, very, very excited for them now. Yeah, look, they're really, really excited for how this team's going.
They've overachieved, I think. I think even in their books, they're probably thinking they've overachieved. I don't think I'm actually dissing them.
I don't think you're wrong at all. Especially with
a couple of major players
the whole year.
And Latrell will be back this week.
And Latrell hasn't been there the first week.
Yeah.
So Ewan Aitken's been out as well. Josh Schuster hasn't been available. They've had quite a few people not be able to be selected for this first month, which means they're theoretically only going to get better.
Yeah. And look, I hope they do for their sake. I mean, there is obviously it has been a thing with Wayne Bennett's team the last couple of years that they've started really well and then fallen away is the only thing. So hopefully that doesn't happen to the Bunnies.
I hope so.
But when South's going well, the NRL's going well. But because everybody kind of loves them, you know, even though
One of the original franchises, right?
they are, and they were out for those couple of years where they were bad.
And then they nearly burned down Sydney to bring them back.
Russell Crowe brought them back.
Yes, the Warriors. The league is better when the Warriors are good.
Yeah, I guess.
We'll talk about the Warriors.
Talk about the Warriors.
Jai Gray's on top of them.
Oh, Jai Gray is killing it.
Who would have thought that after a month, Jai Gray would be the leader on the Dally M leaderboard? What a season he's having.
Well, it just goes to show that the little fullback is back in just about every team.
I'm waiting for the second Matty Bowen to pop up. I don't know who it's going to
Trey
be.
Fuller.
I think it could be Keanu King.
It could be,
okay.
but
Yeah,
Trey Fuller is probably the most like Bowen in the way he plays. But
like you said, there's three of them going around right now that are top level fullbacks,
they're all tiny,
and they're all very, very small.
which is cool. You know, I'm glad because it's always been a big. It's always been a big person's game, right? I mean, you look at that. Even these days, the wingers who used to be scrawny and fast are now massive and fast. So it's like basically, yeah. So it's good to see that the small guys still getting a go.
I can't wait to be an amateur fullback.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Joe Gray having a phenomenal season. He ran for 170 meters. He had 6 tackle breaks. Which is very, very good. I thought that Liam LeBlanc was also excellent. I ran 120 meters, 26 tackles, 2 misses in 47 minutes. I thought that's a pretty good stint from a guy who's not necessarily a regular first grader, who I do think should be.
You actually heard his name a lot.
I think he's quite good. He's also easy to spot because he has a really good head of hair.
His name is cool because it
It's
means the
Liam,
white.
Liam the White.
Nice.
How boring.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
So, well, good luck to Souths, and I hope they can keep going. And look,
I guess on the negative side for Souths, Alex Johnston is hurt.
yeah, he got injured again.
Look, it's not as bad as it was originally thought because the way he fell, the mechanism, it looked like it was probably a scapular injury. It's been listed as an upper rib injury, which means he's only considered like week to week, which is infinitely better than missing for another 6 weeks.
Yeah, well, the fact is he played on for a bit with it anyway, so it was
Yeah.
like,
So it's a pain management thing with ribs a lot of the time. So I guess we will see.
and he's pretty important to South's chances being like the second highest try scorer in history.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Ken Irvin raid continues.
I don't know that he's
When do we think he'll get there? It depends on how healthy he is.
that too, right? Every game he gets so much.
Probably old. I think he's been around.
He's like 29.
He's in his late 20s, which means he's got at least probably 3 decent years left in him, which he could very easily
If
have.
he's healthy. Yeah, and if he does, good luck to him, right? I mean, he could get 20 tries in a season. I mean,
True, he's done that multiple times.
yeah. So,
Okay.
and if he does, well done. You know,
Yeah, so Bunny's looking good. Panthers sitting at near the bottom of the ladder right now, but I'm not
Are
overly
we better?
no, we're one behind them
because our for and against is so terrible.
Okay.
But I guess the other thing for Penrith is that now we know Cleary needs to be on the field as much as possible this year. If he gets a long-term injury, they could feasibly miss the top 8.
Oh, yeah.
Which feels like heresy to say. But with how they've been playing with their star players,
And they don't have somebody who can come in like a Luai could take it forward. They
they
don't have him.
don't have that. I like Jack Cole. I don't think he's that. Trent Toalau is fine. They're not at the level of Jerome Luai, nor what he was.
And that's where they're missing. They're missing another gun in that area. And
Maybe you put Dane Laurie at the 6. He has the game.
yeah, well,
Where's Kalani? Why isn't he in the team?
he was thrown into the centers or something stupid.
I think he should almost be playing the 6 at this point. You need to get something there.
Yeah. Everybody thought that's who was going to be playing this.
Well, I think the issue became he missed a bit of the preseason with, I think, a shoulder injury, so he wasn't fully up to speed. I think once he's, I guess, deemed by Ivan to be quote unquote match fit, he'll be in there. It's just a matter of how good he actually is because we saw flashes of it at Parramatta. He's definitely a very skillful player. So I guess
He's not one of these fast guys with good footwork. And
he's more of he's a will see sort of prospect for Penrith, I think, but they almost need him to be good right now. I guess we will see how at least the next few weeks play out for Penrith if they can try and jag some wins.
Okay.
And next game,
Titans.
Titans, the Gold Coast, they're rolling on. I'm telling you, it's happening.
The Roosters were horrendous.
Okay, yes, I will say that Roosters' second half was abhorrent. It
They
was
completed at 47%.
it was absolutely
In the
atrocious.
second half.
There was
That made it about 50, 60 at best for the whole game. So you're not winning games when you're completing that badly.
Yeah, I think they finished the game with 57%, which is not a professional output.
It's awful.
Not even
And so, yes, the Gold Coast can only play who's in front of them, but maybe they shouldn't be getting amazingly excited just yet because that game was against a team who was, I don't know, they'd lost their mojo. They beat Penrith and suddenly
that was their grand final in round 2. Well, no, but see, that's the thing. They haven't been able to beat Penrith or Melbourne at all. They beat them once, and it sacks everything out of them. Maybe that's what it is.
we'll see. I
Well,
guess.
the
So
next-
they were horrendous.
See, now the curse isn't losing to Penrith; it's beating Penrith.
Here's the deal, right? Without James Tedesco, they lose by more.
Oh, he was their best player by a mile.
Miles better than everybody else on the park for the Roosters. He was just head and shoulders above the rest of them. The rest is pretty average.
Like you'll look through the stat sheet and have a look at the forwards. Did well. Like Angus Crichton statistically was good. Nafahu White, I thought actually played.
He was good, yeah.
But none of it was. They just don't seem cohesive as a team.
No.
It's very, very strange.
It's really like disjointed.
It might be a vacuum. You're not going to say Scott Townsend's fault. Oh, here we go. I guess he had one good game and then he was it.
And guys, it's the second place Roosters.
Yeah, we're gonna keep making fun of you for that. Well, you're making fun of yourself,
I'm making
right?
fun of myself for that.
Yeah, I guess
sixth place Roosters isn't happening either at this point.
there's not much to say about the Roosters other than right now they are not looking like a finals team at all.
Unfortunately, I feel for them. It's fall from grace, but it happens to all teams from time to time, right? I mean,
I think they're looking bad than worse than last year's Tigers.
No, not that bad.
No.
They haven't had 8 people sinned in by round 4.
the Tigers were pretty awful, right?
Yeah, we forget how bad they were. They were
Really bad.
Now they're back to not that bad.
Titans, nearly everybody played well. You could see getting Big Tino back was a big deal.
It is so important
Yeah.
in that team.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, Jaden Campbell had a really, really good game.
And that's the thing, they're still working out that halves combination with Campbell and Brimson.
Mm.
And with missing Keanu King for the foreseeable future, I mean, it lowers their ceiling a bit, but the fact that they're still playing this well without him is excellent signs.
Yeah, I think Brimson was pretty quiet. I didn't think he had his best game, but he was still solid enough to get them where they needed to be. His kicking game was pretty average. He's not a kicker.
Yeah.
Don't let him.
Yeah, he's a runner.
Yeah.
He's basically a fullback.
He is. He's a fullback, right? I mean, but fullbacks can play 6. We know that. We've seen it happen.
This is true. Bo Fermor, also excellent. He's continuing his Origin campaign.
We're in the Origin team.
There is a very good chance he is, especially with like who the people who were selected in the second row were last year, was it Felice Kafusi and Jeremiah? Neither of them are going to be there this year.
No.
I think
It's been good for their teams.
I think it's very possible that Bo Fermor is one of the
He does because he's been very consistent.
We'll
get to that game.
I think. Well, also, I think the bigger news for the Titans is David Fafita looks like he's improving, which is good because you want him at his best. Not right now.
He's still got a long.
Ever. Because Billy Slater hates him for some reason.
Well, last year he wasn't good, and Billy Slater didn't pick him because he wasn't good.
This is true.
This year, if he can show some improvement, he may get a nod, but it might be more like next year.
Yes. And I feel like this happens nearly every year for the Titans. At some point in the season, they'll put together a couple of good games like this, and we'll be like, okay, they finally put it together. And then they'll come out against the Dragons or something and lose 40-4, and we're all left thinking, why? So consistency is what we're hoping for this team. If they can string together 4 or 5 good games like this, I'm infinitely more bullish on
I
them.
guess what helps is that they're playing the Finns, who will be down on confidence also at this point.
Yeah, I don't know how hard their upcoming draw is, actually. Let me have a...
Well, the Finns are next.
The Dolphins next. So, Titans, they have the Dolphins and the Dragons, the Raiders, Cowboys in the next 4, which is not bad.
It's not bad, but it's also some of those are tricky games for them.
A couple of those teams are
Yeah, so I think the Dragons could be one who could test them quite a bit.
especially after this week.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that.
Yeah, but it's good to see the Titans playing solid football for once,
Yeah.
which is a very Des Hasler thing to do.
Yeah, well, it's good for Queensland football, so hopefully they go okay, right? So,
Yeah.
and they've got a lot of good Queenslanders in that team.
Speaking of good Queenslanders, the Brisbane Broncos,
They actually aren't looking bad.
a monsoon, still managed to beat the Dolphins. It was torrential what was happening in Brisbane.
But once again, we're talking about the Dolphins.
We are talking about the Dolphins. I feel like, look, maybe the scoreline in the drive would have been a little bit more favoured towards Brisbane, but it was pretty much as per program this game. I feel like Brisbane never particularly looked like
Brisbane were fine. I don't think they were anything exciting, but they were fine. Right? They did enough to win. That's all they needed to do. I think Reece Walsh is still.
I think he's still trying to work with this new halves combination.
It's not working at the moment because he's having too many rocks games. He needs to get some diamonds if anybody.
Well, maybe that's when he's in for a stretch.
Well, he could be,
or this is the new norm, which isn't good.
And look, he at his ceiling is one of the most exciting players, but at his floor,
It's very frustrating to watch.
Very poor.
Yeah.
You know, his floor is very low. He'll pass it out. He'll knock it on. He'll make the wrong call.
Yeah.
Whatever it might be. He does one good play a game and everybody suddenly thinks he's the best again. But
Unfortunately, that's almost like his play style. He's the gunslinger. It's like, it doesn't matter how many mistakes he makes. He's going to keep trying the same thing, which, bodes well for how strong his confidence is in his play style. But it does mean he'll have games where he just...
Which I think means he will miss Origin because I don't think they're going to pick him if he's going to keep doing that because at the moment Queensland need to wrest that shield back and it's going to take some risking after we saw last year, right? So
you think it's Laurie Daly, so it's going to be a 3-0 drubbing.
I don't think it's going to be 3-0. Very few of the games that Laurie Daly coached were 3-0 series. There was only one that made it to 3-0. The rest were all 2-1 and could have gone either way. But I do think that Reece Walsh needs to maybe dial it back just 5%. And I think at that point, look, don't stop your running game because that's your power, right? That's it. Stop trying to play the silly passes. Stop trying to, do all those sort of things. They're not coming off at the moment. Go back to basics. Get your running game right, which is pretty close to being right anyway.
The thing with Reece Walsh is that for the last 2 years where he's played at Brisbane, for as much as Adam Reynolds has been good, he has been the main playmaker, right? But now that he has Ben Hunt there, I don't think he has to try as hard. It almost feels like what Tedesco was doing at the beginning of last year. And we saw how well he was playing at the end of the year. So I guess that gives hope that Reece Walsh can maybe rein it in just a touch and be a little bit more solid.
I think that's what he needs to do to start with because he's got to get his confidence back. It would be at an all-time low at the moment, I reckon.
Yeah, he's not. Maybe.
Well, who knows? I mean, his mindset might be
Reece Walsh,
right? We're just going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
But he looks frustrated with himself at times, and you can see that in his facial expressions. You can see that in his actions.
Yeah.
So rein it in 5%. You'll still be up there with the best fullbacks.
Yeah, the team won't change at all.
No.
So I don't think the game plan changes at all either. It's just
runs a little more, passes a little less. That's how it is.
I'd be perfectly happy with them doing that, but I'm also perfectly happy with Reece Walsh doing what he does because I love watching him do what he does.
Yeah, look, like I said, his ceiling is very high, but he does have a very low floor. He's got to get that a bit closer, I think, at this point.
Speaking of players that have not very low floors, Payne Haas.
His floor and ceiling.
That's all
he wouldn't fit in a room with his floor and ceiling.
Well,
that's the thing.
This is what I could do. I could just say Payne Haas, and you all know what's happened. He's done exactly what he does every week. And the crazy thing is, I wrote down his stats. He ran for 155 meters, 71 of which were post contact. He had 5 tackle breaks and offload, 41 tackles with 1 miss. And that's a quiet game for him. He only had 1 offload. Where the other 3 games he's played, he's had like 4 plus, I think. Maybe that's to do with the rain. Maybe the rain
put
the offload away.
That's probably clever. Right?
It's probably very clever. But this was a quiet game for Payne Haas. And he's still some of the best numbers in the league. It's just bonkers.
He will go down as one of the greatest props with
easy. It's hard to put many people above, like, the peak he is having.
Glenn Lazarus, I suppose, would be
Maybe.
one you'd throw in there.
It's the best on Premier.
Maybe Shane Webke, he was pretty good too. But yeah,
I think Gehmet Shibasaki's football renaissance has
Yeah,
been very, very impressive.
He was good that
He's
game.
been excellent these first few weeks. I've been very, very impressed with
Maybe
the
we held on to our own Shibasaki, bro. We have the ball.
no, Gehmet up here was like labouring down in Queensland Cup. So I mean, he
Yeah, well, unfortunately, there wasn't much room for him up here. Like, it's just like he had 188 meters, he had 9 tackle breaks, 2 line breaks. It's just,
I mean, there are a couple of errors in there as well. We did see they had a couple of errors knocking on and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
it was wet.
it was very, very wet. You can justify those ones. Like you said before, Reece Walsh, I think he's still working into this new, I guess it's a more refined role that he has to play now in this, like, very, like, magic system that he's in, which I think he'll get better at. It'll just take time.
I think it's kind of ironic that now that manages it is the coach that coached the guy that took his head off in the first origin last year.
I imagine both of them are professional enough that there's not any animosity there.
I don't think Madge would have, to be fair.
I think he told Joe Suaalii to go French Revolution on Reece Walsh.
No, it was just
And he also did his coaching Pat Carrigan. He was
it was a tackle gone wrong for that one.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it looked really, really bad. Which is why he got sent.
And also, I guess for Brisbane, it's good to see Tony Staggs back. It's always good to have him playing football. He got through the game unscathed,
Which is the most important.
He's a very exciting player.
He's very, very fun to watch. 89% completion rate's excellent,
Especially
especially in the conditions
Yeah.
and with, like, some of the play that Reece Walsh has. That's excellent. But there's a little bit of defensive ill discipline that still needs to be, like, ironed out. I think that there's 5 penalties conceded and 5 set restarts conceded, which is, like, above average in both of those for football. So that still needs to be fixed. I have full faith in Michael Maguire to get this team fully.
Well, he may well do, right? And good luck to them. And I hope we get some Queensland teams. I'm not a Brisbane fan, everybody knows that. But
Was it Paul Gallen who tipped all the Queensland teams to the finals? I think it was. I don't know why. I don't know what possessed him to say that. Maybe it was
The fear of what we lose.
the ghost of Carl Webb visited him one night.
No, it was like
it's not over for one of them. I think the Dolphins will struggle. Cowboys can still get there.
I think the Titans are still in as well.
Of course they can, but I'm just talking about the two that.
The Dolphins. Speaking of the Dolphins,
Look,
this is ugly.
they're trying hard. They're just not.
It's just not there.
cohesive at this
I don't know what's happened. Well, I do know what's happened. Hammer's bad. The forward pack is old, and the spine is too inexperienced to actually.
Well, Nicarima can only do so much for himself.
Yeah, I think he's been fine.
Yeah.
I think Isaiah Katoa needs to work on his decision making. I think
He's a good player.
I think he's an excellent player on his day, and we've seen that a couple of times this year where he'll have 20, 25 minutes of play where he looks like he could be playing Origin, but then he'll have these sorts of games where he's just silent almost. It's I keep using this word. It's frustrating. I can only imagine how Dolphins fans feel watching how high this guy's ceiling is, and just him never reaching it at a, like, consistent interval.
Now, I get what you're saying about Hammer too. I mean, he's had 13 runs.
This was his best game of the season, which isn't saying much, but it's at least something.
He had the most runs he'd had for any game.
A while, yes.
And last week he was very, very quiet.
I think that
was a bit better.
The perfect microcosm for how this game fared for the Dolphins was the performance of Tom Gilbert, who's always this ever reliable tackle bot in the middle of the field who missed 10 tackles. That never happens. So maybe it's a function of the wet.
I think it's part of it. I think it's still obviously getting used to the new coach. I mean, I know you can blame the coach for so much, and it's not always the coach, but
I don't think most of this was Christian Wolf's fault.
he's actually a very good coach.
He's a good coach.
I've seen that he won with Wigan 3 or 4 times or something.
I think he's just kind of been caught between a rock and a hard place with this roster.
Yeah, it's not a great
So it'll take it. We said this when the Dolphins first came in, where it was like they're going to take a while because they're left with everybody's scraps initially. They're going to get people who come through developing. We've seen it a couple of times with, like, your Max Platts and your Trey Fullers of the world who are playing very well. And some of the signings have worked. I thought Jeremy Marshall-King was excellent. I thought that
Agrillo tries really hard, right? He's unfortunately on the back line. It hasn't been doing a lot.
And well, we say that, but Herbie Farnworth is still one of the best centers in the league
Just
on
ha-
the end of the same back line.
He's Toby Farnworth.
He's very, very good. I do really like Herbie Farnworth. They had some pretty good games. It's just a matter of cohesion with this team. Attacking cohesion, mostly.
Yeah.
I don't know where the points have been disappearing from this team.
Yeah.
Because you'd look at this crew and
I think they actually have more points in them than last year.
the fastest fullback. You've got Jermaine Azako, who's one of the most solid wingers. You've got Herbie Farnworth. You've got Jake Averill. You've got Isaiah Katoa, one of the most promising young halves. And you've got like your Tom Gilberts and your Kulikefa Finifuliakis and Max Platts and all these guys who are on their day excellent players. It just hasn't gelled.
But I think we were discussing it, and they don't have any super heavyweights in their pack.
I thought, look,
I mean, like,
True.
size-wise,
this is
they
true.
don't have-
I think that Daniel
Big.
He's been good for them.
Oh, he's been one of their best. I like Daniel.
I've been very pleasantly surprised with how well he's played.
Yeah, he's been very, very good. So,
Look, it's the Tom Flegler thing, right? They missed Tom Flegler.
Yeah.
Tom Flegler not playing. And look, I feel for the Dolphins. They will get there. I don't think they're
going to be this bad the entire season. I think they're going to get around at some point. It's a matter of when and if it's too late.
And if it does click, watch out because they've got some
Oh, they've
speed all over the park.
absolutely. They've got a
Yeah.
very, very fast back line.
Yeah.
So, look, it's just a matter of patience for the Dolphins, I think. It was always going to be a big adjustment with the departure of Bennett, the incoming of Christian Wolf. It's just a little bit. I didn't expect it to be this bad.
Yeah. Well, let's see how they go. I mean, hopefully they'll.
Yeah.
Saints and Storm now. Who saw this one coming?
It's the rain. Rain neutralizes the premiership contenders. We've seen it the past couple of years with Penrith. Now it's happening with Melbourne. You're going to do a rain dance every time you play one of these guys. So, I guess we can start with the Dragons because they did win.
It wasn't. Look, it was a pretty. There wasn't a lot to talk about. It was a 14-6. It wasn't 14-8.
Horrific
Yeah.
performance.
Yeah.
Which is
Very
impressive
good,
because that's Melbourne's wheelhouse.
Mm.
That's what they thrive on. And the Dragons beat them at it, which is very impressive.
No, look, good luck to the Dragons. We all thought that there was a possibility of Melbourne going through unbeaten. Well, that's gone.
That's gone.
However, their best
It's still
is the same as Brisbane's, where they lost 4 times all year in 2017.
Yeah.
That's still beatable.
that's still yeah.
And I feel for the team they're playing this week.
Were they
It's the Eagles.
That's like
Them.
well, it's the Battle of Brookvale, so maybe something weird can happen.
Yeah. But they weren't. There's not a lot to spruik about the game at all, apart from the fact that yes, there was good defense on both sides.
It's one of those games where it's almost the inverse of what's going on with the Roosters, where you have to like watch the game instead of looking at the stats, and you say, okay, well, the stats aren't great for the Dragons, but they were the better team.
Yeah.
Melbourne were really like uncharacteristically poor with the ball. It was very strange.
completion rate?
It was some I don't know. I probably wrote it down somewhere. Maybe.
No.
No, that's right. No, he was out this week. That's right. I wrote down every single statistic that Melbourne were ahead of the Dragons in this game. Let's read this. They had more possession, their completion percentage was higher. They ran for more meters, had more line breaks, had more tackle breaks, had more average set distance, had more offloads, less missed tackles, and less penalties conceded.
And they lost, and they still lost.
That's
So it's a very, very good win, a very good first win of the season for the Dragons.
Yep, 2 teams got their first wins this week.
Yes, they did.
I
I guess I know we said individual performances. You can look at, I guess, the 2 debutant players for the Dragons. I mean, David Clemmer made his club debut, played 25 minutes off the bench. It was fine. He was good defensively. And the young Dylan Egan, I thought, played very well. So it's good from the Dragons.
yeah.
couldn't comment on it because I was driving for a lot of this.
It's
Driving to
just
another
a
game.
weird game. It's just very, very weird.
It wasn't something you expected from the Storm.
Yeah. I would not want to be in the locker room after that game.
Oh, the locker room had no paint on it.
And lots of them have several new ones being formed.
Yes.
So I guess we'll see how A, Melbourne respond from this, and B, how the Dragons perform over the next month or so. Maybe if this is like the turning point for their season.
Well, we're actually saying the same thing with Penrith, right? If your main playmaker is not there,
it really stood to reflect. How important is Jerome Hughes to this team? Because
Dally M medalist last
yeah,
year.
see, we looked at it last year and thought, okay, well, yeah, he was the main playmaker, right? He was the 7 Munster was out for most of the year. That's why he was so important. But now Munster's back, playing fairly well. I think he's operating about 90% right now.
Not too bad.
And it just didn't happen. It's very, very strange.
Again, they're going to know exactly where your attack's coming from when you've only got one player out there that can do it.
Ryan Pappenhausen.
Yeah, but he more comes in when a break has happened. But
Tyron Wishart is no slouch.
no,
He's an excellent player.
he went close to not stealing it, but at least, giving it up near the end when they barged over. But, I don't know. Melbourne,
They'll be fine.
they're not going to...
I'm not concerned about Melbourne at all.
Yeah, they're not going to...
I'm just very happy for St. George.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they'll better get a win soon, just like the next...
This man was too busy driving to the next
It
game.
happened. It happened. The Cowboys beat the Raiders.
Yes!
Win. And a fairly good one.
It wasn't bad.
I'm not. Look, there's a lot of games where you can look at and say, yes, we won, but it didn't feel like we won. This felt like the Cowboys deserved to win this game.
Yes.
I feel like that middle 40 minutes was too good for them to blow that game.
You know what I thought I had an excellent game?
We're going to get into there's a lot of individual performances.
Yes, we'll get into that in just
Okay.
I'll talk about the Raiders first because I have a bit less to say about them.
Kyle Winks.
Yikes, he's had a rough couple.
We'll be having nightmares of bombs coming at him all night.
This is a big question because obviously the Raiders lost Jordan Rapana in the off-season.
Yeah.
Do we think he would be playing fullback by now?
I think right for
You reckon?
yeah.
Because who's the backup fullback at Canberra? Is it Chevy Stewart? It's probably Chevy Stewart.
Maybe,
Who played 2 games last
maybe Savage and someone else
I don't
was
think
on
that-
the wing.
Well, we don't really have anyone else on the wing yet because Albert Hopewadi did his ACL in reserves. So there's just not much there. I feel really bad for KO Weeks. He's just had a rough couple weeks, unintended.
Yeah. He'll be better for it.
I think he will be. I think Canberra fans need to be patient with him.
I mean, he's
I think he's actually a pretty good player.
I think he's a good player.
He just, look, all players go through it. Like we were talking about with Reece Walsh, he's going through a bit of a downtime as well.
Yeah.
They'll both get through it, and probably better for him coming out.
I was saying, the Raiders had opportunities to win this game. I think they definitely, especially when Cohen Hess got sent to the sin bin, the fact that they only scored 1 try during that period is kind of sad, if I'm being honest, because the Cowboys' defense, for as much as it's had more staunch in it the past couple of weeks, still isn't phenomenal.
Although, to be fair, against Cronulla when they were down to 12, Cronulla didn't score at all.
True.
So I'm thinking the Cowboys defend better when they have 12 people on the field.
a squad of 12.
The usual suspects for Canberra were good. Joe Tarpany in his return game was good, despite yelling at Adam G a couple of times.
All night, he was trying to teach him how to ref the game.
Yeah, I've never seen him be that aggressive towards a referee before.
It's not on. He's the captain. He needs to lead by example. He needs to not be in the referee's face all night.
Yeah.
Josh Papali'i was pretty bad everything when he ran in.
I thought, who's that young winger dude? Savelio Tamale. I thought
He was very, very good.
Mr. Tomato.
He was probably the best on the back line.
Oh, by a distance. Because Timoko was quiet, Chris was quiet.
Yeah, Chris had a very quiet game.
He was shut down by Jackson Turgeon.
Which is surprising.
I'll talk about Jackson Turgeon in a second. But it was just a very odd performance from the Raiders. It was just weird. It didn't feel like the Raiders of the past couple of weeks. The luster has really worn off.
That loss against Manly may have had more effect than they thought.
Corey Horsburgh's fault.
Well,
I'll let you rant about Corey Horsburgh for a second because I know you're gonna be angry about it. What did you think about what he did to Jason Taumalolo?
well, look, looking at it at the time, I thought it was almost a hip drop style tackle. Looking at it on replay, it was more the arm chicken wingy type thing that I was more frustrated with that nothing happened with.
Yeah.
He didn't land, let's face it, he didn't land on his ankle. He was down and then he sort of moved into on his ankle while he dragged him down. He wasn't a hip drop.
He was already on the
He was
ground.
already on the ground.
But that's what happened to Chad last year, and he got sinned in for it.
Happened to Munster earlier on this year, and he didn't get sin bin, but got penalised.
No, but I think the difference is that in that situation, Munster was the one already on the ground doing the tackle. Tamalolo was already on his knees when Horsburgh made the motion,
Yeah.
which I think almost disqualifies as a hip drop because the main thing for hip drop is ankles, and you can't.
Yeah, it wasn't a hip drop, but it was still chicken wing style tackle.
Yeah, when Joe Tapney got pinged for that earlier in the game, I think also on Jason Tamalolo, they really went at him for some reason. Can't imagine why.
I don't know why that is.
Oh,
But look, Horsburgh,
I like him. He just has these sorts of games where he's a bit whiny.
and he wasn't that. I don't think he dominated like he has in previous weeks.
No,
He was pretty
I-
quiet as well.
Look, the Raiders have a good forward pack. There's
Absolutely.
no denying that they have one of the better ones in rugby league, and the Cowboys handled them
Yeah, they did.
somewhat competently, which I was sure was not going to happen.
Well, I actually thought, as frustrating as Reece Robson was in attack, his defence was actually pretty good. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Reece
Reece
Robson.
Wall.
May as well talk about him now because I've gone through basically everything I had to say about the Raiders. Just a weird performance. Reece Robson has put the cue in the rack. Look, he was better defensively.
He was. He hit pretty hard.
I don't know what he's doing in attack, especially on the goal line.
First tackle, right? Let's kick.
They've just got to set restart. It's like, okay, cool, I'm going to grubber it when nobody is chasing. That was one of the
And then on the last kick,
headed things I've ever seen him do.
the last kick, Joseph decides to take it.
Dive with the ball.
Yeah.
It's so odd because you never see that. That's not the Reece
That's
Robson.
not his go. We know that's not his go. He's a very good player.
Yeah,
That's what's made him play Origin last year because he was that good.
don't know what's going on.
What?
I think his mind is now in Sydney, and maybe
I would want it to be. Is he wanting to make the most of still having a somewhat decent roster up here?
oh, I know, but yeah. Anyway, we'll see what happens with Reece. He needs to improve his game somewhat.
Jackson Purdy. And look,
really
He's
good.
done his 200 meters with a really long run
Yeah.
that he did last week. His defensive decision making was phenomenal.
Mm.
I really, really liked watching him just get up in the face of those sweeping plays down the defensive left side, and he would just rush up and get in the face of Kato Weeks and Sebastian Crisp and shut it down.
And he's not a big guy.
He put on some good shots.
80 kilos at
I think it's what we were talking about last week, where if he's been training at 7 for a lot of the preseason, it takes him a little bit to work back into being a centre.
Yeah.
I think we're starting to see him be a centre again.
Look, he's got some wheels.
Oh, he is
He's real quick.
I mean, he was outpaced Rolf last week.
and he outpaced Xavier Savage
this week with the ball.
on the try.
Look at that.
Kind of.
Pass the ball to Murray.
Yeah.
Past it.
Or cut back inside.
3 or 4 tries that game.
There were a couple of opportunities in that first 15 minutes that went begging, and that's the one negative I have about this game is that they still looked pretty unpolished.
They were clunky, but when it stuck, it actually looked really good.
Really good.
Right? And their sweeping plays were excellent. I thought, hey, they're starting to do that again.
Yeah, they tore the Canberra right side to pieces.
Oh, absolutely.
That side of Purdue and Talangi had a field day.
They did.
And
Paul Derby had to run in if he wanted the ball. He had to come looking for it. He never went out the other way.
I still thought he had a pretty good game.
He was fine, because at least he attacks the ball, right? I mean,
You don't see that from the Cowboys.
no.
Jake Clifford.
Yep, the big red dog.
The best player on the park.
He's the best player in the league when he's playing the Raiders.
No, the best player on the park.
Oh, by a distance, I thought he had an excellent game. What was it? I put down he scored 2 tries, both of which were great
That was
tries.
excellent.
He had a line break assist, try assist, 3 tackle breaks. He had 22 tackles and 4 misses, which for a half.
That's okay for a half. Yeah.
And quite possibly the longest kick for touch I've ever seen.
Like, he kicked it from the 30, right?
And it went out at the 5.
No. Some people were saying online, I remember reading, that they put helium in the ball.
Helium in the ball. And that's what the Cowboys have been missing.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a distance kicking game where you can put fullbacks under pressure, but also keep them in their own end of the field. Because for as much as the Cowboys forward pack played well, they still struggle to find meters at certain points. And if you have someone who can kick you out of trouble, that does you wonders.
And that is why Clifford is good, because he has it. Right now, he probably has the biggest boot in the league of people who are playing. At least,
Yeah, Burton's hurt.
and Moses is hurt as well. So yeah,
Close.
Moses would be up there as the big kid.
But yeah,
Burton has the big.
Burton's right.
It's not even
No,
close.
Excellent game from Jake Clifford.
He was great.
I'm always, because I was a Jake Clifford defender for years, and you guys know this. I was always clamoring for him to be in the team.
Mm.
And then when he went over to, well, first of all Newcastle, and then the Super League, I kind of just gave up and thought, oh well, he's a all right halfback that might get a backup job on a bad team. And now he's come out and put together some pretty good performances when he's come back here, which I'm very excited. It's just a matter of consistency.
Yeah. Because Canberra's kryptonite.
He did this against Canberra last year.
Yeah.
Up here, he did almost the exact same thing, and then for the rest of the season, he was fine.
He was average.
He was average halfback. If he can even just put together a few 7 out of 10 games together in the next few weeks, I feel infinitely better about both his chances and the Cowboys' chances of being potentially a top 8 team this year. So
that's what they need, consistency in the halves. I think Dearden had his best game of the year so far.
I thought he did all right.
That's kind of high bar because he hasn't been great.
Yeah.
But the only way is as long as they keep improving, that's what we want to see.
Yeah.
Also,
Improvement.
I think he had a good game. Jeremiah Nana.
He was good for the thing he came off the bench. I thought he had a couple of really, really good moments.
He ran well. He was very good in attack. And he did do some pretty big hits in defence as well.
He did that
Saving tackle as well.
He did really big.
So,
I remember that
I think it
There
was.
was
Wasn't it?
one big hit I think he did at the game. I can't remember when it was.
Very descriptive.
I think it was on Papali'i. He did a good one.
Good shot on one of the big boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess in terms of second rows as well, John Bateman had one of the more frustrating games I've ever seen. What was that first half?
Oh, I don't know.
It was horrendous.
The first half was John Bateman. The second half was Carter O'Donnell. I could not never understand it.
And then in the second half, he came out and looked like Canberra form again.
Yeah, it was excellent. It was really, really
It
good.
was just Carter O'Donnell lights.
Maybe had a chat maybe somebody had a chat with him and said, look, stop being so, nervous on tendrils. Go out there and play your game that we know you're able to
We
do.
saw that in the second half. He started doing his running, sideways across the field, crab running, looking for gaps.
Yeah.
And then letting Tom Dearden and Jake Clifford do their thing, like ad-lib football.
Yeah,
And it looked good.
it did.
This is what I was hoping for when John Bateman was signed, is that sort of football. And we hadn't seen it much. If we can get that for 80 minutes a game, it's excellent.
And it took the most humid game of football for him to actually do it. And it's from England.
He
What the heck is going on there?
He sure got
He's like soul powered or
It
something.
was so good. It was so humid.
So
It was
bad.
disgusting. 87%, just awful. Anyway, you can breathe the water.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a good game for the Cowboys. Well done, boys.
Win's a win.
Keep going. And we've got Penrith next week, but we'll talk about that.
Thing.
Yeah, talk about that later.
We'll talk about that later.
No.
Sharks, Dogs.
Go
The
Dogs.
Dogs will march on.
My goodness, the dog. That was just about
What a
the
game.
best game of football that I've seen from a football team this year.
That was excellent, excellent.
They just did not allow Cronulla a look in at all. It was like they were in there. They just got rid of any time that they had. They just couldn't do
They
anything.
just kept it going the entire
I
time.
know.
They're still, I think that in my opinion, they are the fittest football team right now.
Well,
They
yeah.
just don't look like they stopped.
Mm.
None of them look like they stopped. Even the bench guys don't look like they slowed down at all.
And they have some pretty good bench
They
guys.
have some excellent bench players.
So look, they were great.
Oh, man.
That was good.
Connor Tracy was excellent.
Connor Tracy's excellent as always. I thought Bronson Cherry had one of his better games since his return. Ironically enough, in his return to Shark Park.
Yeah, against his team that he got kicked out of because of drugs. But anyway,
But yeah, it's just an excellent team performance from the.
it was really, really, really good. And that's without
And that's without Burton and Kickout. They beat a premiership heavyweight without two of their best players.
Yep.
Arguably their two best players. So this team is so much better than I expected. I had them in fifth, and I'm shocked at how good they are playing.
I had him in ninth, and I'm probably changing that.
I will change that to third. Probably.
It's just, you run out of words. I'm in awe of how good Cameron Sorrello has been as the coach of this team. It's just, and how he's unearthed some of these guys, like Jacob Preston, who's come out of nowhere and is playing like one of the form second rounds of competition.
Bailey Haywood.
Bailey Haywood
Was so good.
playing excellently at 6, right?
He was great. He was actually really good.
And Max King, who I will forever say is the most underrated forward in the league. And it's just like, these are names that no one had heard a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And now they're household names for this team.
They just, yeah.
And it's just,
You realise the builders for that game.
Exactly. And everyone, I know the whole joke was they need to sign all the Penrith people. It's all the Penrith people. They've got Crichton who's playing well. But who's out. Kick out.
Yeah.
Their best players are not people who came from the Penrith system.
Best player that
Tracy is up there with their best players. He came from the team that they beat.
He's been excellent. He's been really, really good.
Really, the best player on that day was Bailey Haywood.
Yeah.
He was good.
I still think Jacob Preston's more important, but I do get where you're coming, especially after the week Bailey Haywood had last week, where they still won, but he wasn't great.
He scored like 2 tries that week.
Played very, very well this week, so it's just. However, I will say, Sutila Supanua had the dumbest late tackle I've ever seen.
He got sent to 10 with 0 seconds
on the siren.
After the siren.
Sent for 10 after the siren.
It's
one of the most boneheaded things I've seen him do, which is unfortunate. I don't remember whether he got suspended or not.
I don't know. I didn't get charged for his careless tackle.
He did get charged, but he didn't get suspended.
Oh, he got charged, but he didn't get suspended.
I guess, we've ranted about how good the Dogs are. Cronulla?
They're not great.
They're teetering a bit at the moment.
Well, we know they can't beat the good teams. That's been the narrative for the past 4 years.
They're so good. They beat the Cowboys by 24. So
yes, the Cowboys ain't good.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I don't know how to feel about Cronulla right now, because I'd spent the last couple of weeks saying that Nico Hines was playing good football. He was incredibly quiet. The entire spine was very quiet. I thought Will Kennedy did next to nothing.
The entire team was pretty quiet. I mean, the forwards tried, but they
lost Siusu Talakai after like 3 minutes of him being on the field. So they had Adam Fanua-Blake playing 70 minutes, which he's done, I think it was 6 times in the past 2 years, and he only did it once last year. He's not used to that big minute role, which is still insane because he ran for 170 meters, had 5 tackle breaks and 39 tackles, which is still an excellent stat line for a forward.
Yes,
but it
was my top 3.
It was a less effective those stats, if that makes sense, because he had to pace less fresh.
Yeah, that's what happens. I think.
I don't know how to feel about it.
They're featuring a bit too much for me at the moment. I had them in the top 2.
It was a rough game. So did I. It was a rough game. I guess
they're going to turn the corner.
I guess you can only hope that it's just like a fluke game where everyone was off. Maybe you can hopefully stagger the bad games.
The Bulldogs, everyone was on.
Yes, exactly.
So that doesn't happen every week.
I guess we'll.
Jack Todd debuted.
Jack
Todd. 21.
Did he play
The Bulldogs.
I missed that. I don't know how I missed that.
Well done.
I swear I'm not lying.
I missed that. There you go.
Jack Todd.
I can't believe I missed a debutant. I love debutants.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing. Hold on.
Yeah, Bulldogs.
Keep ranting about the Bulldogs for a second while I find this.
We came around about the Bulldogs because they were excellent.
Yeah.
Look, Stephen Crichton is going to get captain of the year again, I reckon. So,
close. Thomas Raldo's got coach of the year.
He was number 2.
He got both hands on it right
now, yeah.
21.
Oh yeah, Jack Todd, there he is. He played 16 minutes. 6 for 55.
Not bad.
9 tackles, no misses. That's not bad for a debutant. Yeah, good luck.
He would have had a record of 81 tackles and 0 misses.
Very good. Well, speaking of lots of tackles, Cameron McInnes, they're almost 60. Just casual 60 tackles from Cameron.
I'm sure he's a robot.
I don't know what.
He's ugly robot.
Ugly robot. Very funny. No, I will not stand for any I will not stand for any Cameron McInnes slander on this channel.
This is going to be hit by a truck.
What you got?
5 rounds of Mike Tyson's prime.
But yeah, Bulldogs, one performance.
Yeah.
Cronulla,
you got to come on to Cronulla, otherwise your season will start teetering a bit.
Hope it's an off week. I guess.
Yeah.
Eagles, Eels should have been more of a blowout than it was, but Turbo got injured again, so.
He was injured from fairly early on.
Yeah, he was good the first 15 minutes, I think, and then was just a passenger for the rest.
I think Turbo had like.
At that point, they just did what they had to do to win.
Yeah. which you can do against Parramatta. Unfortunately,
Cowboys.
Well, Parra's second half was actually not horrible,
they played all right in the second half.
and that's like they were against the Bulldogs last week. The Bulldogs,
Yeah.
so they actually played relatively well against the Bulldogs, right? So there are good signs for Parramatta, but they just don't have any cohesion in attack.
Yeah.
And poor Jason Riles, he is up against it. Right?
I pray they don't fire him after this season. I pray they
He
don't.
can't-
Give the man a chance.
He's been absolutely hammered by
Injuries and contract sagas.
An awful roster.
So the Seagulls once again did what they needed to do, and of course they had their own issues with like Daly Cherry Evans and all that sort of stuff.
But they get to high Hawaii back there, and he's still great.
I mean, honestly, had he trained there all week, they would have done better than 26 points. But he trained.
Yeah, I think Turbo's going to be missing for 4-ish weeks. I think because it's an MCL sprain, so he'll be gone for probably a month. Which means we'll get a month of Lehigh or maybe Tyler Cole playing fullback. I guess we will see how Seabold decides to handle this. It'll probably be Lehigh. That's how it's happened the past couple of times that Turbo's been out. So
Olakau'atu is a scary man.
He might be the most physically gifted player in the NRL.
Oh,
he is terrifying.
Him and Stefano Utoikamanu, who would be arguing that. Yeah. No, he was very good.
I was impressed with how well Takeaho was going. I was quite impressed with how well he played.
He's not a young pup anymore.
No, he's 31, 32.
Yeah, he's similar to Tamalolo, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a good player. And he used to be a goal kicker once upon a time.
So they don't need that because they've got Ruben Garrick who's shooting the lights out right now.
He was a bit quieter this week, Garrick, but you're not going to score 28 points every week. So
26.
No, it was no, he scored. Garrick scored 28 by himself last week.
Yes.
That's what I was saying.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that was his holiday.
He scored more points alone last week than Manly scored this
week. So what it shows is that it was raining. It was raining everywhere in Sydney. It was terrible, and Brisbane. So it was. I think kind of sat a little bit while we were at footy, but nothing too.
Yeah, it was a wet weekend. It was weird.
But it's that's a lot to talk about that game. To be fair, there wasn't.
I guess bright spots for Parramatta. I've been very happy seeing Zach Lomax actually applying himself. I think he's been playing fairly well. He ran for another 170 metres this week. He had 6 tackle breaks. He played well.
I just think with Lomax, he needs to rein himself in a little bit with some of his defence because he goes overboard with it at times. And I always hate it when I see people going the extra yard that they don't need to do. Guys tackled already. Let him up to play the ball. Don't keep, whatever you're doing, jamming into his neck and stuff like that. It's not necessary behaviour.
I guess I understand where you're coming from.
I remember reading online where one guy said, you're not tackled by Lomax unless he's picked you up and suplexed you or something. It's like,
I know how dare he have good tackling for.
Suplex tackling for him.
But it's just a watch.
But he's a great player. He's very frustrated at the moment. You can see that on the team that he's on. So, and that probably
perpetuates the rest of the team.
But it also probably does something to his psyche, which means he gets a bit more aggressive in his
well, because you'd be thinking, well, I have to do something to turn this around, right? So he ends up trying 110%, and that includes 110% of the aggression.
Yeah, I know it's hard, and I'm not trying to stone in his direction on purpose. It's just I've noticed a couple of times in games where he's overcooked it a little bit. So,
I guess I get where you're coming from.
He's a great player. Don't get me wrong. He's on a horrible team. And he's frustrated, and there's not much he can do until Moses gets back, and even then, there's no lay down that they'll be a huge amount better. They'll be better.
I mean, especially with how poorly Dylan Brown is going right now. Just yikes.
I mean, previously when Moses has been out, Brown
he could shift into the 7 role and actually be half decent. But now they're playing Dean Hawkins at 7, which doesn't make any sense to me. Because Brown's played 7 before in the past couple of years when Moses has been out.
He did the Luai thing, right?
Exactly. And on top of that, now you've got the whole thing of him going to... Where's he going again?
Newcastle, that's right. 1.3 million for 10
And
years.
Stupid.
He's not worth that.
No,
Not with the way he's playing right now. He's not worth close to that.
He's got maybe 600K.
If you're lucky. He's been fairly poor, unfortunately, because I love watching him play. I think he's a good player. It's just unfortunate. I guess, well, yeah, positive for Parramatta. It wasn't a blowout.
Yeah, what's a liar?
like I said, they're trying hard.
They have
No skill.
There's nothing there. There's nothing. It's a barren wasteland.
It's very, very sad for them.
Yeah. And I guess it's a matter of how well Manly can survive turbo-less for the next month or so, and however many other times he's going to get injured
I
this
guess we'll see with the next game coming up how that works.
We will see.
Okay, Tigers, Warriors.
Tigers,
This is the
Warriors.
game of the round.
Game of the round
God,
by a distance. Yes, this was a very fun game.
That's so cool to watch.
the last try was insane.
Yes, there is not a better sight in rugby league than a big man in space. Because that Halasima try was one of the best things I've ever witnessed.
He's got a lot of time, man.
He's flying up on the wing for this. Can you respond to wing?
It's only about 1.5 times bigger.
That's the problem.
It was great. That was a great.
Time has gone.
Good game.
This was a very good game to watch.
I want to point out, look, the Tigers should have won this game.
Oh,
I think they definitely should have won this game. I want to put out two specific moments. I think they're fairly obvious moments. The Alex Seyfarth high tackle on Chasnick Klokstad, which, going back and watching, he played for all it was worth, because I don't think Seyfarth hit him initially in the head, and then Chance, bucked his head forward after the contact to say, hit me in the face.
Well, we've seen that in the past, and it's
yes.
worked. So,
And
Val.
the second one,
Yeah.
final minute of the game, Sunia Taruba makes a break down the sideline and plays the ball to nobody.
yes,
There was no one there to support him,
So-
which is just
that
frustrating.
would be the case. You should have just slowed it down and waited until somebody got there, right? Yeah.
God, he had 50 seconds left. Wait for someone to rock up, just keep the ball.
But good luck to the Warriors. They're doing a lot better than most people thought they would be doing.
They're doing a lot better than I expected them to anyway. It's a matter of how high the overachieving ceiling is right now.
And that's 3 out of 4.
It's 3 out of 4, but who did they beat? They beat the Tigers. They've beaten. I don't remember who the other teams they've beaten are. Hold on.
Who beat the
They lost to
Raiders.
the
Lost
Raiders
in Vegas.
They have lost. They have beaten. Who?
They beat Manly.
All right, they beat Manly fairly convincingly,
And
to be
the
fair, and they beat the Roosters. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. I think
The Manly one was very good,
Manly one was good.
but we know that Manly can't travel. They're terrible away from home.
The Warriors are a very interesting bunch because you look at the squad on paper, and outside Fisher Harris, who was there? Really?
Nickel Cookstars played for New Zealand. So,
He played well. He's strung a couple of good games.
the two of us have checked. Well, his skill set is pretty well known.
Yeah, well, he wasn't in this game.
No. Chanel Harris took.
He's been good.
Yeah.
Very, very impressive.
He has been excellent.
I guess, I forgot. Wade Egan, arguably the best attacking number 9 in the competition.
Yeah.
He needs to be not heading his head basketball.
I
He's the Kalen Ponga of number 9s. He's an excellent, excellent player. I do like watching him. And here's the thing, right? Origin spot for him, because Robson's not playing great. Coruscant, I think, is past the Origin age now. It's between him and Connor Watson, probably, for the starting 9 job. We could be looking at an Origin debut for Wade Egan. Not with how he's playing.
He really needs to improve.
I guess, well, in terms of the Warriors, yeah, we talked about the Leka Halasima try, which was just
That was the
amazing.
greatest try.
That was great. I thought Metcalf's really starting to come into his own as the 7, which
Yeah.
is good to see for the Warriors.
His running game was a lot better.
The best
Yeah,
try.
I think he's getting better at actually leading the team around.
Best try of the season so far goes to the Warriors.
We've done
Discussed that already.
I also thought, look, I think James Fisher-Harris has been excellent for this team. Despite, you look at the stat sheet, how many running meters did he have? He played 51 minutes, he had 120 running meters, which is enough for the style of forward he is, that's enough.
Yeah.
And especially with how, leadership important he is to that team, I think you don't want him exhausting himself. So if he's just doing that every week and barking orders at everybody, that's all the Warriors need from him.
It's really good. That was bad. Like, that was bad.
They were a good team. It's just that
There's a couple of them just out enthused in the end. I agree. This is as good as time to talk about it as any because Jerome Luai is the sole reason this rule is coming into existence. The whole high contact with no mitigation.
into the player with your shoulder.
Yeah, high contact, no mitigation from now on is going to be an instant sin bin, which, to be fair, it probably should be anyway. I don't know. See, I don't know. Like, people are blowing up about it. That's basically all the qualifiers for a sin bin worthy tackle anyway, except they've taken the forced part of it out. Which I can kind of get because you're trying to discourage the mechanism, not the result. But I can immediately see that they're going to go too far with this next round. It's going to be Magic Round 2021 over again. If you remember,
8 or 9.
you guys remember that one? That was fun.
8 or 9 sin division day. It was terrible.
In terms of the Tigers, we talked about them being out enthused. Someone who was never out enthused is Terrell May, who was ridiculous and will forever be ridiculous.
Spicy in that
He
game.
did a little bit. There were a few little.
Whatever, man.
I think the Tigers got a bit frustrated at some points in that game, which
They should have won. And
They
like
should
I
have
said
won.
before, they should have won. They were up 24-18
with like 9 minutes left,
And
they
that's
should get
what
a
they
win
should
to win.
win. Yeah.
Well, Terrell May nearly scored a try, if I remember correctly, but it got called back for some reason. I don't remember what it was.
I can't remember either. But
I don't think he I think he dropped it.
Yes, you're
He
right.
dropped it over the line.
That's what happened. I remember.
and look, I don't think that neither team will lose admirers because the Tigers probably.
Yeah, I think the Warriors will be happy. The Tigers will be okay that they're competitive, but they will be very, very frustrated that they didn't put this game away.
Yeah. I guess it wasn't like if it had been like that, they'd probably win.
Yeah.
Campbelltown's not quite the
It's not
same.
quite as good. I will say, because we're going to be talking about Terrell May a lot this year with how well he's playing. I don't want Fanua Pole to lose any credit for what he's doing because he's playing arguably just as well. Like, he played 70 minutes. He had 18 runs for 180 meters. He had a try assist, 6 tackle breaks, 34 tackles, which is still for a forward. And I feel like that's May Pole forward pack combo is becoming one of the best 1-2s in the league behind what? Brisbane? Maybe that's it. They could be the second best starting forward pairing in rugby league. And I don't hear anyone talking about how well Fanua Pole is playing, and it frustrates me because I love the guy.
Oh, he's good.
Because that poked his tongue out then.
Yes,
That was funny.
That was funny.
He's off the back fence is supposed to be a metaphor for Fanua. Although we say that, he's not the only one on that team that does it. Royce Hunt also always sits on the back fence waiting to take a run.
Royce Hunt's been a pretty good player. Yeah.
I thought Jack Bird was good in his first game in the centres.
Oh, he had to be there because of an injury, right?
He was out. Yeah.
Look, Jack Bird's played centre.
He doesn't. He's played nearly every position at this point. Yeah, I think it's just a matter of this was going to happen with the Tigers. With this new combinations, you're going to have games where stuff doesn't fully stick, even in like tight situations like this, and it will be frustrating.
Yeah.
But they will learn from it. Which is all you can hope.
They're going to win more games this year. There's no doubt. And
Benji Marshall, I think, is doing a good job with this team. It's a matter of getting them to bounce back from a game like this, where they should have won and didn't. It's a matter of keeping them on the roll.
I feel bad for Taruva too. That play the ball was so.
I thought Taruva had a pretty good game.
he's a good player.
He is a good player.
Very good player. Okay, well, that's the wrap of the.
Round 4.
We won't probably talk as long for this next section because somebody needs to go to bed.
Oh,
pretty soon.
shush.
Young man.
But it is true.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll see how quickly we can speed through these. Raiders Sharks. Morgan Smithies is back via the bench, pushing Trey Mooney to the reserves. For Cronulla, Kyle Iro is out with a hamstring problem, replaced in the centres by Maywan Hiroti. The Hazelnut is named again, but he got dropped before the game last week, so we'll see if he stays, with Talakai missing through concussion protocol. Canberra have lost this matchup twice in a row and have lost 2 games in a row. I can see Cronulla making it 3 losses in a row on both those counts this weekend.
Yeah,
Cronulla by 12.
I think Cronulla will win. they'll bounce back from their game against the Bulldogs.
Bounce back game for both of these
It can be quite hard though, because they are at Canberra, so that's a hard place to go to at times to win. But I do think Cronulla have a little bit more skill in their
Hopefully Fitzgibbon looks at the last few weeks and says, put pressure on KO Weeks. That's what you need to do to beat this team.
Cowboys do it work.
I think it's going to be as, like, of a blowout as everyone thinks.
I said 12 points.
12's not like
I'm going to go Sharks to win 30-24.
You think they're going to score that many points?
I don't
Yeah.
think so.
I don't think they'll
It's going to be too cold. They won't be able to move.
Their hands will be frozen. Yep. Penrith Cowboys. For Penrith, Dylan Edwards is not back yet,
Good.
which is good news for us. The chin has returned.
Concerning. That chin, all right. That photo of him was absolutely
Horrendous. So Brian Totler is out with his hamstring injury, which means Casey McLean is on the wing. Scott Sorensen is out through concussion, so Isaiah Papali'i gets the second row, and Lamar Smith starts at the prop.
Well, there you go.
Matt Eisenhuth is the new face on the bench. For the Cowboys, it is the same 17.
Yeah.
Zach Labert still hasn't had an avenue to get back into the team yet. But with how well Purdue and Vitalia are playing, I
It's
don't
going
think
to
he
be
needs to change anything.
No, not at the moment. He just needs to bide his time. He'll get there. There'll be a time that he gets in.
From injury, be it through Vitalia or Purdue having a couple of bad games,
It'll be through Origin with Talani maybe making the team and then having to move it around a little bit.
Yeah. I think he'll play at some point. Look, it was a good win from the Cowboys. It was a bad loss from Penrith. Script flipped. I don't think the Cowboys are going to be overly competitive in this game, but I can see a few points being scored.
Okay, Cowboys.
Of course you will.
25-24.
Look, I know that Penrith have had the wood over the Cowboys. Well, the couple of games the Cowboys have won when they've been playing evenly, right? So
Yeah.
they, to be fair, the game that they played last year in Anzac Round was a full strength both teams, and it was one try in it. So, you know,
They came back like a freight
did.
train.
And look, if they can put up the same sort of effort they did in the last couple of weeks and a little bit more polish happens with their attack, you never know. Right?
Okay, look,
And Penrith at the moment seem to be a team for the taking, right? So if there's ever a week that you want to beat Penrith and they're at Combank, which is not their home ground, no matter how much you try and sell that,
this will be the week.
this is the week that they could do it if they match their effort that they have done in the last couple of weeks with a little more polish. Am I silly enough to say they're going to win comfortably or anything like that? No. If they win by any number of points, I'll be amazingly happy.
I'll be ecstatic if they win. I don't care that it's Penrith who aren't full strength. Penrith is Penrith. They are still intimidating as hell.
So, look, if they win, good. If they don't, they're actually in the best position because nobody's really expecting them to go down to Penrith and win. Or go down to Combank and beat Penrith.
It's because they don't adopt that mentality.
Well, there is that, but maybe they can play with a little bit of freedom because of that as well.
I would be very happy to see the Cowboys.
I think Penrith probably do win, but I can see that the Cowboys do have an avenue to take it off.
Yeah, there's like a 1 in 6 chance the Cowboys win this game, I reckon.
We'll see. I think it's slightly better than that, but yes, that's true. We'll see how we go.
25-24.
On his chooks. He's back. Joe Mitchell's back.
Okay, if you're based on
Here we go. Dally M season incoming in the centres.
In the centres, Nathan.
It's coming. Tell you,
you know, the last centre won Dally M, but that's okay.
Yeah.
He was playing fullback for that Dally M. Yeah, Latrell Mitchell is back in the centres, which means Jai Gray has played well enough to keep his spot.
And I agree with Wayne Bennett
in the fullback. I definitely understand the play.
So what I'm thinking, if you base it on the 2 previous games, Souths win pretty comfortably.
Yes, I agree with that.
I don't see any avenue that the Roosters can actually win this game, unfortunately.
Other team news, there's actually quite a bit for the Bunnies here. Alex Johnston is out.
Yes.
And with Latrell returning in the centres, that pushes Isaiah Tass out to the wing. Lockie Humpner returns from his suspension, which pushes Talis Duncan to the bench. And unfortunately, Liam LeBlanc moves to the 18th man, which makes me sad because I like him.
Liam the Whites.
For the Roosters, Celeste Fiketti and Connor Watson both return. Zach Docker-Clay then moves to the bench, and Savala drops off the bench to the reserves.
I feel like Dr. Clay.
I think he's all right. Lindsay Collins and Spencer Leniu swap spots. So you've got Collins starting, Leniu off the bench. Nat Butcher's
all the way it should be.
and Nat Butcher starts at 13 with Victor Radley out with a broken face. With the high tackle crackdown that's happening, this is going to be a repeat of that elimination final from 2022. I can see there being 3+ sin bins in this game because there's always sparks between these two. I don't care that Victor Radley isn't there because Angus Crichton is still there and he will go at them.
The sin bins are going to be because it be against the Roosters once they try and tackle John Gray.
We'll try and Mitchell gets sin bin
We probably will.
because he unfortunately does have those sorts of tackles in them. Just ask Joey Mane.
Angus Crichton.
Rabbitohs by a bit. Yeah, but not too much because of all the sin bins.
Yeah, I'm thinking of 10 to 12 probably the Rabbits.
Yeah.
I've got them 8.
Okay.
Rabbitohs 24. Let's go Roosters. I had 10.
10. Fair enough.
10.
Eels Dragons. I've completely missed this news. Dylan Walker plays for the Eels now.
Yes.
I don't know how I missed that. But he's there now. He's coming off the bench. Luke,
That's his best position.
yes, because he can play everywhere. Yes. And Luca Moretti also joins the bench, which pushes Charlie Geimer out again.
That's going to say it's not a lot of time.
I think he's great. And Joey Lussick completely falls out of the team, and Riley Smith is the starting 9 now, which I like because I think he offers a bit more creative attacking than Joey Lussick does. For the Dragons, Emre Gula is suspended for 3 weeks, so the lazy T-boy is starting at prop. I don't remember.
He couldn't have been good.
He's out for a few weeks, and Toby Cashman starts alongside David Clemmer.
Yep.
Blake Laurie is the man on the bench. They beat Melbourne last week.
They did.
The Dragons will be going into this with heads held high.
It might have been an aberration on both points, however.
I still think they probably beat the Eels.
Yeah,
It's the Eels.
I don't think there's a...
However, we do remember the final game between these two last year was a movie. It was 44-40. That game was bonkers. I don't see it happening again.
Dragons almost won that.
I see the Dragons winning this.
The Dragons will win.
It'll be somewhat convincing. Somewhere like in the realm of like 16 to 20 points.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
30, Eels 10.
Fair enough then. Titans Fins. Queensland Derby, number 4, 5
million, whatever it is by this.
Whatever number it is for this season anyway. For the Titans, Jamin Jones is back, which is good for them. And he joins the bench along with debutant alert Sean Mullaney. I have no idea who this guy is.
I guess we'll find out.
No.
Oh,
Comedian guy.
yeah.
So Chris Randall is starting at hooker, who replaces Sam Verrills, who I think is out with a hip injury. And Baby Tino falls off the bench, unfortunately,
Baby Tina.
with an ankle problem.
What's that?
For the Dolphins, with Tom Gilbert suspended for a week, Max Platt moves. Tiny Tino.
Tiny
brother.
Tina.
Max Platt starts lock. And now an all-former Cowboys second row pairing of Connolly Lemuelu and Kulakefi Filipiaki. Poachers.
The Dolphins are just the Cowboys like, basically. They have Gilbert, Hamaso, Lemuelu,
There's a lot of them, yeah.
Yes.
The Titans are on a roll. The Dolphins are not. Predictable outcomes occur.
Yeah, Titans win by a bit.
I'm just hoping it's not one of those Titans games where they lose by a bunch and look terrible. Hopefully.
Guess we'll find out.
We will find out. Broncos Tigers.
This I don't think is as...
It's not a letdown for anybody.
Yeah.
For the Broncos, Jordan Ricky is suspended for a week. So Cooper starts in the second row. And Jaden Hunt joins the bench.
He's the other pretty boy.
Jerome Luai, the aforementioned, is suspended.
Yeah.
So Latu Fainu joins the halves in the oldest halves combo versus the youngest halves combo in the NRL. So that'll be fun.
What's this? Who's this?
Well, Hunt and Reynolds,
So both over
and
30.
then Fainu and Galvin for the Tigers.
They're both like 20.
19. Both of them
19.
19. That's fun.
Look.
For the other Tigers news, Adam Dewey is named despite doing his groin in warm-ups, which pushes Jack Bird to the bench.
Yeah.
Solomon Fa'atape is dropped for Luke Laulii, something like that.
Great name.
Eyes. There's lots of eyes in this.
Signature.
I think the big storyline for this game is the two best props in the NRL going at it.
Very cool.
Payne Haas, Terrell May is going to be a spectacle. I'm very excited for this game.
Whoever comes out on top will probably win the game.
I just think that the Tigers missing Jerome Luai is going to do them a little
That's a
bit.
big loss.
So I'm thinking Broncos bite a bit simply because the Tigers won't be able to score many points.
Is it Brisbane?
It is at Suncorp.
There you go. That's obviously another.
I preliminary have the Broncos winning by 20 plus. Maybe it won't be that bad. I just don't see where the points come from for the Tigers without Jerome Luai being the honest.
Defense for the Tigers, though. Is that any good?
It's okay, but once again, if you can't score points, it doesn't matter. We see this with the Dolphins.
Broncos 20, Tigers 10.
Fair enough.
10 points in it.
Who do we think comes out on top in the Haas-May duel?
Haas.
I don't know. That's a tough one. Look, we always think of Haas as old, but he's not.
25.
Terrell May's only a bit
Feels like he's
younger.
been around
So
forever, bro.
I think Terrell May could rip and tear. I really do. Like I said, I think whoever comes out on top of that could
Possibly win this
win
game.
the game.
Yeah.
So I hope the Tigers do, but I don't see it. I do think Brisbane will have too much class at Suncorp. I think, maybe 6 to 10 points.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, so it's just a matter of the Broncos, I think, are sitting in third on the ladder right now. Let's see how long they stay up there.
Yeah, well, they were up there last year too, weren't they? That's when
Manly Storm. Battle of Brookvale, Volume 23.
Probably
This one.
the best matchup of the round.
It'll be one of the more fun ones because it always is between these two. For Manly, obviously, Tom Trbojevic is sidelined again, replaced by Lehigh Hopewadi again.
yeah.
Clayton Fualalo, something like that. Clayton is on the wing. Nathan Brown starts at prop for Josh Aloier, who's missing with, I think, a shoulder complaint. And Toff Sipley joins the bench. For Melbourne, Jerome Hughes is named in the reserves, so he could have a chance of coming in this week. Lazarus Bartlett joins the bench in place of Marion Seve. This will be fun. This game's always fun. This could be another one where there's a lot of fireworks, especially with the sin being crossed in.
Like 7 fights.
It could be a few. Especially Nathan Brown. I wish that Nelson was playing in this game.
Oh,
How fun would it be to have those two going
Why
at
did he
it?
not?
Because he's bad. And he tried to kill Nick Meaney.
I think he tried to kill Nick.
I don't know. He's just not been good. I just feel like that's why he's not.
they're on the same team.
I think Melbourne.
Manly,
They bounced back from last week.
Manly have won the past 3 of these in a row. So they have form for beating Melbourne at Brookvale.
Where is he
There is a path for them to winning this. I just don't know how likely it is they do.
Yeah.
I just think the Melbourne will
Will be angry.
Oh,
They will be mad.
If they lose again, I think Craig Bellamy is going to start killing people.
He's gonna
When was the last time Melbourne lost 2 in a row?
He's gonna explode. He's just gonna like.
Spontaneous combustion.
He's gonna be a creeper.
Melbourne by like a try-ish.
Yeah, I think they win. But if they have Jerome Hughes and he's fit enough, they'll win by a bit more. If they don't, the try is going to.
I think if they don't have Jerome Hughes, it's like 60-40. If they have Jerome, it's more like 80-20.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see what happens with that situation.
Yeah, I think Melbourne win and go back somewhere near the top of the table.
Final game of the round, Doggies Knights. This will be fun. I'm very interested to see how this plays out.
I think the Dogs will win this.
Supanua. Satili Tupanua, off the back of his boneheaded play, is suspended, so Curtis Morin joins the bench. Jacob Kiraz is listed in the reserves, hoping to come back from his quad injury that's kept him out for the first month of the year. For Newcastle, Leo Thompson's back, which is huge. That's really big for them.
That's a good in.
Which pushes Brodie Jones back to the reserves. Thomas Kent has held on to the edge spot, which I'm happy about because I like him. Newcastle coming off a bye. The Dogs coming off one of the best wins they've had in the past few years. This will be fun. However, I smell an upset. I think Newcastle get up here. I know it's insane, but
You saw how the Dogs were last
I
week.
did see how the Dogs were last week. I do want to know how much that has taken out of them.
But if they can put up a performance like that, the Knights have.
If they put up a performance like that, not many teams beat them.
No.
So, I don't know. I think I have, with Leo Thompson back, they're all coming off a bye, they're all fresh. I think I feel a little bit more confident in Newcastle's ability to score points in this game.
I think I'm still going to go the Doggies.
I think that is completely fair. I just like the upset because I don't like the idea of there being undefeated teams.
The Dogs
it'd be nice.
Everyone has to lose.
It would be nice. And look, this is one where an upset could happen. It's probably one of the more likely ones that an upset happens. But
Yeah,
it's hard to go past the Dogs in their form at the moment.
yeah, that's completely fine.
The most likely for an upset to happen may actually be Penrith.
No, I think the Tigers would be more likely to beat Brisbane.
Yeah, I actually do as well.
But yeah, so this should be a very interesting week of football after a very interesting week of football, I suppose.
Let's see if we can get a dry week.
Let's hope so. Stop raining, please.
Stop sending rain down for like 5 weeks.
And yeah, go Cowboys.
Go Cowboys.
I'm hoping they have a win. And look, I'm going to do something that my son here doesn't like.
Okay, goodbye.
If you do like listening to a couple of morons have a chat, feel free to subscribe. Press the like button.
Yeah, look, we have this here. We have the audio only available on Spotify if anyone wants to check it out. It's under the same name. Chuck us a follow there, like this video. It just helps with like the algorithm and letting other people talk about the greatest game of all.
Indeed. I believe.
Right on the Cowboys. Right on the boys. We'll catch you next week.